He showed her a photo of her sister and calmly said that silence solves problems faster than the police. In the clinic basement, it smelled of paper and money, not fear. She walked out with the evidence, knowing the threat now had an address. The real horror had not begun yet. For now, her life ran on cold, exhausting discipline. The alarm went off at 5:30, same as always. Emma's hand shot out from under the blanket, silencing it before the second beep. She lay still for a moment, listening to the rhythm of her own breathing in the darkness, then swung her legs out of bed. The apartment was cold. She kept the heat low again to save on the bill. Her feet found the slippers by touch, and she padded quietly down the narrow hallway, careful not to wake her sister. She paused at Lilia's door. Through the crack, she could see the girl's shape under the covers. One arm thrown over her head, phone still clutched in her hand. 15 years old and already glued to that thing. Emma felt the familiar tightness in her chest, the weight of responsibility that never quite lifted. She pulled the door closed and moved on. In the bathroom, she splashed cold water on her face and stared at her reflection under the harsh fluorescent light. Dark circles under her eyes. Hair pulled back in the same tight bun she wore every day. 29 years old, and she looked older. Felt older. She stopped counting how many days it had been since she slept through the night without waking at 3 in the morning. Heart pounding, mind racing through worst-case scenarios. The coffee maker gurgled in the kitchen. She poured herself a cup, black, and stood by the window. Outside, the street was still dark. A few early commuters already heading to their cars. The neighborhood was not bad, not really. It was not good either. It was the kind of place where people kept their heads down and did not ask questions, which suited her fine. Her phone buzzed on the counter. A text from her supervisor at the clinic. One of the night shift nurses had called in sick. Could Emma come in early? She typed back a quick yes. Extra hours meant extra money, and extra money meant she could breathe a little easier when the rent was due. She drained her coffee, rinsed the cup, and went back to her room to change into her scrubs. By 6:15, she was in her car, a beaten-up sedan that coughed when she turned the key but always started. The drive to the clinic took 20 minutes through empty streets. She used the time to prepare herself, to pull on the mask she wore at work. Calm, competent, invisible, just another nurse doing her job. The Riverside Care Facility sat on the edge of town, a low sprawling building surrounded by manicured lawns that looked better than the neighborhood around it. It catered to elderly patients whose families could afford private care but not quite the luxury places downtown. Emma had worked there for 2 years. She knew every hallway, every room, every quirk of the ancient heating system that clanged in the walls. She parked in the employee lot and walked to the side entrance, swiping her badge at the door. The lobby was quiet. Marta, the night receptionist, looked up from her computer and gave a tired wave. Emma waved back and headed down the corridor to the nurse's station. The morning routine was familiar. Check the charts. Review the medication schedules. Make the rounds. Mrs. Patterson in room 12 needed help getting to the bathroom. Mr. Holloway in room 7 refused to take his pills until she sat with him and listened to a story about his grandchildren. Mrs. Chun in room 19 just wanted someone to hold her hand for a few minutes. Emma did it all with quiet efficiency, her mind only half present. The other half was always somewhere else, calculating, measuring, watching for anything out of place. At 9, the day shift supervisor arrived. Linda was a heavy-set woman in her 50s with a voice like gravel and a no-nonsense attitude Emma appreciated. She did not pry. She did not gossip. She just wanted the work done right. "Thanks for coming in early," Linda said, dropping her bag behind the desk. "Cheryl's been out 3 days now. I think it's more than a cold." "No problem," Emma said. She was updating a patient file on the computer, her fingers moving automatically across the keyboard. "New administrator starts today," Linda added, pouring herself coffee from the pot in the corner. "Corporate sent him. Supposed to streamline operations or something." Emma's fingers paused for half a second, then resumed typing. "We getting audited?" "Probably." You know how it is. New management always wants to make their mark. Linda sipped her coffee and made a face. God, this stuff is terrible. Anyway, he'll be doing rounds later, meeting everyone. Try to look pleasant. Emma nodded. She finished the file and moved to the next one. New administrator. Streamlining. Could mean anything. Budget cuts. Staff reductions. New protocols. She felt the familiar tightness in her shoulders, the instinct to be on guard. Change was dangerous. Change meant scrutiny. Scrutiny meant risk. She kept her head down through the rest of the morning. Lunch was a protein bar eaten standing up in the break room while she reviewed the afternoon medication schedule. She was back at the nurse's station when she heard footsteps in the hallway, followed by Linda's voice. And this is our main hub for the East Wing. Emma, come meet Mr. Vance. She looked up. The man standing beside Linda was in his early 40s, tall and lean, wearing a suit that was just expensive enough to stand out in a place like this. His hair was dark, graying at the temples, and his smile was polite but did not reach his eyes. He extended a hand. Emma Reyes, right? Linda tells me you one of the best nurses here. She shook his hand briefly. His grip was firm, his palm dry. I do my job. I'm sure you do more than that. He released her hand and glanced around the station, taking in the files, the computer screens, the medication cart. I'm here to help make things run more smoothly. Updated systems, better record keeping, that sort of thing. If you have any suggestions, my door is always open. Sure, Emma said. She turned back to the computer, signaling the end of the conversation. She heard Linda usher him away, their voices fading down the corridor. She did not think much about it until the following week. That's when the changes started. First, it was the new badges. Every employee had to turn in their old ID and get a new one with a chip for enhanced security. The process required filling out forms with updated personal information, emergency contacts, previous addresses, employment history. Emma filled hers out with the careful lies she'd been using for 2 years. She'd gotten good at lying. Then came the staff meetings. Mr. Vance wanted to introduce new protocols for patient documentation. Everything had to be digitized, he said. Paper files were inefficient. The clinic was moving to a cloud-based system that would allow for better data analysis and compliance with federal regulations. It all sounded reasonable. Too reasonable. Emma sat in the back during the meetings, watching him. He was smooth, professional. He answered questions with practiced ease and made eye contact with everyone in the room, as if he genuinely cared about their concerns. But there was something in the way he moved through the clinic that set off alarms in her mind. He spent too much time in the records room. He asked too many questions about patient histories, especially the ones with complicated financial arrangements. She started paying closer attention. She noticed that files would be pulled from the cabinets and returned in slightly different order. She noticed Mr. Vance having quiet conversations with certain family members in the lobby, always away from the main desk where conversations could be overheard. She noticed the way he seemed particularly interested in patients whose estates were in probate or whose relatives were listed as power of attorney. Could be nothing. Probably was nothing. But Emma had learned a long time ago that ignoring warning signs was how you got hurt. One afternoon, she was restocking supplies in the storage closet when she heard voices in the hallway outside. She recognized Mr. Vance's voice immediately, smooth and reassuring. The other voice was older, male, with a slight tremor. I just want to make sure my mother is comfortable. The man was saying. The doctor said her condition is stable, but I'm worried about her mental clarity. She has been saying some strange things lately. Memory issues are common at this stage, Mr. Vance replied. But we can certainly have her evaluated. There are specialists who can assess her cognitive function. If necessary, we can help you arrange for a formal competency hearing. It is really in her best interest, especially if there are financial decisions that need to be made. Emma stood very still, her hand frozen on a box of gloves. The conversation continued for another minute, then the voices moved away. She waited until the hallway was silent before stepping out. Her heart was beating faster than it should have been. Competency hearings. Financial decisions. She knew that language. She'd heard it before, years ago, in a different place, in a different life. She went back to work, but her mind was racing. That night, after her shift ended, she sat in her car in the parking lot and stared at the clinic's windows. Lights were still on in the administrative offices. Mr. Vance's car, a sleek black sedan, was parked near the entrance. She should leave. She should go home, pick up Lily from school, make dinner, and forget about it. It was not her problem. She'd built a life based on staying invisible, on not getting involved, on protecting what little she had. Getting curious was dangerous. But she could not shake the image of her parents' faces, the confusion in her mother's eyes, the anger in her father's voice as he tried to explain what had happened to their business, to their savings, to everything they built. The legal documents he could not understand. The lawyers who spoke in circles. The slow, grinding loss of everything, piece by piece, until there was nothing left. And then the accident. The police had called it a tragic coincidence. Brake failure on a mountain road. Emma had never believed it. She started the car and drove home. Lily was already there, sprawled on the couch with her homework spread around her. Emma made pasta and sat across from her sister at the tiny kitchen table, half listening to Lily's chatter about some drama at school. Her mind was elsewhere. That night, she could not sleep. She lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, and made a decision she knew was probably stupid. She was going to watch. She was going to pay attention. And if she saw something that confirmed her suspicions, she would figure out what to do next. The next morning, she arrived at work early again. She logged into the system and started reviewing patient files, looking for patterns. Who had recent competency evaluations? Who had changes in their power of attorney? Who had family members suddenly taking a more active role in their care? It took her 3 days to piece together a picture. 6 patients in the last 4 months. All of them elderly, all of them with significant assets, all of them showing sudden declines in mental status that led to competency hearings. In each case, a family member had taken control of their finances shortly afterward. And in each case, Mr. Vance had been involved in coordinating the evaluations. Could still be legitimate. These things happened. But Emma's instincts were screaming. She was closing out a file when Linda appeared at her shoulder. You okay? You've been staring at that screen for 10 minutes. Emma blinked and forced a smile. Just tired. Long week. Linda studied her for a moment. You've been working a lot of extra shifts. Do not burn yourself out. I would not. Emma stood and stretched, trying to shake off the tension. I'm fine. But she was not fine. And that night, when she got home and found Lily waiting by the door with a strange look on her face, she knew things were about to get worse. Lily said quietly, there was a guy outside today. When I got home from school, he was just standing across the street, looking at the building. Emma's blood went cold. What did he look like? I do not know. Normal? Dark jacket, jeans. He did not do anything. But he was there for like 20 minutes. I watched from the window. Then he just walked away. Emma locked the door behind her and pulled the blinds closed. Did he see you looking? I do not think so. Lily's voice was uncertain now, picking up on Emma's fear. What's going on? Is something wrong? No, Emma lied. She forced her voice to stay calm. Nothing. Probably just someone waiting for a friend. But let me know if you see him again. Okay? Lily nodded, but her eyes were wide. Emma hated that look. She'd spent 5 years trying to give her sister a normal life, trying to shield her from the fear that had defined their childhood. And now it was all coming back. That night, Emma sat on the floor of her bedroom with her back against the door and let herself think through the possibilities. If Mr. Vance was running the same scheme that had destroyed her family, then he was working with others. A network. Lawyers, probably. Maybe doctors. People who knew how to manipulate the system. And if they figured out who she was, if they connected her to her parents, then Lily was in danger. But how would they know? She'd changed her name. She'd moved across the country. She'd been so careful. Unless she had not been careful enough. She pulled out her phone and opened the browser, searching for information about the scheme that had destroyed her family. The articles were old now, buried under years of other news. The investigation had stalled. No one had ever been charged. The lawyers had vanished. The money had disappeared. She sat there until the sky outside started to lighten, her mind circling the same questions over and over. What should she do? Who could she trust? How could she protect Lily without exposing them both? By the time she got up to get ready for work, she still did not have answers. But she knew one thing for certain. She could not ignore this anymore. Emma moved through the next few days like she was walking on a tightrope. Every interaction at the clinic felt weighted with meaning she could not quite decode. Mr. Vance passed her in the hallway and smiled, the same polite professional smile he gave everyone, and she smiled back while her pulse hammered in her throat. Linda asked if she was feeling all right, and Emma blamed it on a cold coming on. Lily asked why they were suddenly ordering takeout instead of Emma cooking, and Emma said she was just tired. The truth was she could not stop watching. She noticed things now that she'd missed before. The way Mr. Vance always seemed to be near the medication storage room during shift changes, when the chaos of handoff made it easy to go unnoticed. The way certain family members showed up at odd hours, signing papers in the administrative office with the door closed. The way patient charts would be updated with notes about confusion or aggressive behavior that Emma herself had never witnessed. She started taking pictures. Nothing obvious, just her phone angled casually while she pretended to check messages. A document left on the printer. A name on a visitor log. The license plate of a car she'd seen in the parking lot 3 times in 1 week. Always during Mr. Vance's meetings. She did not know what she was going to do with any of it. She just knew she needed evidence of something, anything, to prove she was not imagining the whole thing. On Thursday afternoon, she was changing bedding in room 22 when she heard raised voices from the hallway. She recognized one of them immediately. Mr. Holloway from room 7, the sweet old man who told stories about his grandchildren. But his voice now was sharp, angry, nothing like his usual gentle ramble. She stepped into the hallway and saw him standing outside his room, still in his pajamas, confronting a woman in a business suit Emma did not recognize. The woman had a briefcase in one hand and was trying to maintain a calm expression while Mr. Holloway jabbed a finger at her. "I do not care what those papers say," he was shouting. "I never signed anything. I never agreed to any of this. Where's my daughter? I want to talk to my daughter." "Mr. Holloway, please calm down." The woman's voice was smooth, practiced. "Your daughter is the one who arranged this evaluation. She's concerned about your well-being. We just need you to answer a few questions." "I do not need an evaluation. There's nothing wrong with me. This is a trick. You trying to trick me." Linda appeared from the nurse's station, moving quickly. "Mr. Holloway, let's get you back to your room. You upsetting the other patients." "I'm not going anywhere until someone tells me what's happening." He turned to Linda, his face flushed. "They saying I not make my own decisions anymore. They saying my daughter has to control everything. That's not right. I'm not crazy." Emma watched from the doorway as Linda gently guided Mr. Holloway back into his room, speaking to him in low, soothing tones. The woman in the suit glanced at her watch, then walked briskly toward the administrative offices. Emma followed at a distance, keeping her footsteps quiet. The woman knocked on Mr. Vance's door and entered without waiting for a response. Emma moved closer, pretending to check something on the wall-mounted fire extinguisher near his office. Through the partially open door, she could hear fragments of conversation. "He's more combative than expected. The family said he'd been compliant. Give it time. They always resist at first." That was Mr. Vance's voice, calm and unbothered. "Just document the aggressive behavior. Strengthen the case." And if he refuses the evaluation, then we note that as evidence of impaired judgment. Either way, it supports the competency hearing. Emma's hand tightened on the fire extinguisher. She forced herself to move away before someone noticed her standing there. Her mind was working fast now, connecting pieces. Mr. Holloway had been fine yesterday. Sharp, coherent, perfectly capable of making decisions. And now suddenly he was being evaluated for incompetence? Because his daughter wanted control of his finances? She finished her shift on autopilot, going through the motions while her thoughts churned. When she finally got to her car, she sat gripping the steering wheel and tried to think logically. She could report this. There were agencies that investigated elder abuse were not there. Ombudsman, regulatory boards, something. But what would she report? A conversation she overheard through a door? Her gut feeling that something was wrong? She had no proof. And the moment she made waves, she draw attention to herself. To Lily. She drove home slowly, checking her mirrors more often than necessary. No one was following her. Probably. She could not tell anymore if her paranoia was justified or if she was seeing threats where none existed. Lily was at the kitchen table when Emma walked in, textbooks spread around her, earbuds in. She pulled them out when she saw Emma. Hey, there's leftover pizza in the fridge if you want. Emma dropped her bag by the door and went to the window, checking the street below. No unfamiliar cars. No men in dark jackets standing on corners. Did you see anyone outside today? Lily's expression shifted, worry creeping in. No. Seriously, what's going on? You've been acting weird all week. I'm fine. Emma turned away from the window and forced a smile. Just work stuff. It's been stressful. You can talk to me, you know? I'm not a kid anymore. I know. Emma crossed to the table and squeezed Lily's shoulder. I'm just tired. How's the homework going? Lily gave her a look that said she knew Emma was deflecting, but she let it go. Okay, I guess. History test tomorrow. You'll do great. Emma headed to her room, suddenly desperate to be alone. She closed the door and sat on the edge of the bed, pulling out her phone. She scrolled through the photos she'd taken over the past week. Documents, names, license plates. None of it meant anything on its own. But together it painted a picture. Pattern. She opened a new note on her phone and started typing. Names of patients she suspected had been targeted. Dates of competency evaluations. Family members who suddenly appeared. Mr. Vance's meetings. She worked for over an hour, organizing everything she could remember, cross-referencing it with the photos. When she was done, she had a document that looked almost professional. Almost like evidence. But evidence of what? She still could not prove intent. She could not prove conspiracy. All she had was a suspicion and a bunch of circumstantial details that could be explained away. She was still staring at her phone when it buzzed with a text. Unknown number. Her stomach dropped. The message was simple. Just 2 words. Stop digging. Emma's hands went cold. She stared at the screen, her mind racing. Someone knew. Someone was watching her. She thought about the man Lily had seen outside their building. She thought about the way Mr. Vance always seemed to know where everyone was in the clinic. She thought about how easy it would be for someone with access to employee records to find her address, her phone number, everything. She deleted the text and turned off her phone. Her breath was coming too fast. She needed to think. She needed to be smart about this. But smart would mean backing off. Smart would mean forgetting what she'd seen, going back to her invisible routine, protecting Lily by staying quiet. And the thought of doing that made her feel sick. She thought about her parents again, about how they tried to fight back against the people who targeted them, how they hired lawyers and filed complaints and believed the system would protect them. And look how that had turned out. She did not sleep that night. She lay in bed listening to every sound in the apartment, every creak of the floorboards, every distant siren. At 3 a.m, she got up and checked the locks on the door and windows. She looked in on Lily, who was sleeping peacefully, one arm tucked under her pillow. Emma stood in the doorway for a long time, just watching her breathe. The next day at work, she was a ghost. She kept her head down, spoke only when spoken to, avoided Mr. Vance entirely. She felt eyes on her constantly, though when she looked up, no one was watching. Linda asked again if she was feeling okay, and Emma said she thought she might be coming down with something. Linda told her to go home early if she needed to. Emma said she'd tough it out. During her lunch break, she sat in her car and turned her phone back on. No new messages. She scrolled through her contacts, looking for someone she could trust. The list was depressingly short. She spent so long keeping people at arm's length that she never really made friends here. There was Linda, but Linda was too close to the situation. There was a former coworker from her last job, but they had not spoken in over a year. Her finger hovered over one name, Sarah Chun, a nurse she worked with briefly when she first started at the clinic. Sarah had left 6 months ago to take a job at a hospital downtown. They'd gotten along well, had even gone out for drinks a couple times. Sarah had been kind, perceptive, the kind of person who asked real questions and listened to the answers. Emma stared at the name for a long moment, then closed her contacts. She could not drag someone else into this. It was not fair. She went back inside and finished her shift. At the end of the day, she was updating a patient chart when she felt someone standing behind her. She turned. Mr. Vance was there, hands in his pockets, expression pleasant. Emma, do you have a minute? Her mouth went dry. Sure. Let us talk in my office. It was not a question. She followed him down the hallway, her heart pounding so hard she thought he must be able to hear it. His office was small and neat, with framed certificates on the wall and a desk that looked like it had never seen clutter. He gestured to a chair and she sat. He perched on the edge of his desk, casual, unthreatening. I wanted to check in with you, he said. Linda mentioned you've been under the weather, and I've noticed you seem a bit stressed lately. Is everything okay? I'm fine, Emma said. Her voice came out steady, which surprised her. Just tired. This job can be demanding. I get that. He smiled. But I also want to make sure you taking care of yourself. You valuable to this team. We do not want to lose you. There was something in the way he said it that made her skin crawl. A slight emphasis on the last sentence, as if it carried a double meaning. I appreciate that, she said carefully. Good. He stood and moved behind his desk, pulling open a drawer. Actually, while you here, I wanted to ask you about something. We redoing an audit of medication records, and there's a small discrepancy I'm trying to track down. A few pills unaccounted for from the night shift last month. Do you remember anything unusual? Emma's mind went blank. No, but I was not working nights last month. Right, of course. He pulled out a file and opened it, scanning the pages. My mistake. It must have been someone else. He looked up at her, his expression unreadable. You tell me if you noticed anything off, right? Any irregularities? Any concerns about how things are being handled? Of course, Emma said. Great. That's what I like to hear. He closed the file. Teamwork makes everything run smoothly. We all need to trust each other. She nodded. He held her gaze for a moment longer, then smiled again. That's all. Thanks for your time. Emma stood and walked out, forcing herself not to rush. She made it to the nurse's station, grabbed her bag, and headed for the exit. She did not breathe properly until she was in her car with the doors locked. He knew. He did not have proof, but he knew she was watching him. The message the night before, the conversation just now, it was all a warning. Back off or face consequences. She started the car and pulled out of the parking lot, her hands shaking on the wheel. She should listen. She should take the warning and disappear back into her safe, invisible life. But as she drove through the streets toward home, past the familiar buildings and intersections that marked her daily route, she realized something had shifted inside her. She was angry. She was tired of running, tired of hiding, tired of letting fear dictate every choice. Her parents had tried to fight and lost, but maybe they fought the wrong way. Maybe the answer was not lawyers and official complaints. Maybe the answer was something else. She did not know what yet, but she was going to figure it out. Emma spent the weekend trying to act normal. She took Lily to the library Saturday morning, made pancakes for breakfast Sunday, watched half a movie on the couch before her attention drifted, and she found herself staring at her phone instead. Lily noticed. She always noticed. But she did not push, which Emma was grateful for. She was not ready to explain something she did not fully understand herself. On Monday morning, Emma arrived at the clinic with a plan. It was not a good plan, but it was something. She was going to keep watching, keep documenting, and when she had enough evidence that even a skeptical authority could not ignore, she'd figure out who to take it to. Someone outside the clinic's chain of command. Someone who could not be bought or intimidated. The flaw in this plan, she knew, was time. How long did she have before Mr. Vance decided she was too much of a risk? How long before another patient ended up like Mr. Holloway, stripped of their autonomy based on manufactured evidence? She was restocking supplies in the East Wing when she heard a commotion near the front entrance. Raised voices, the sharp click of heels on tile. She abandoned the cart and moved toward the sound. In the lobby, a woman in her 60s stood toe-to-toe with Mr. Vance, her face flushed with anger. She was well-dressed, her gray hair cut in a sleek bob, and she held a folder of papers in one trembling hand. "You have no right," the woman was saying, her voice tight with fury. "No right to keep me from seeing my own father." "Mrs. Brennan, please." Mr. Vance's tone was calm, almost patronizing. "No one is keeping you from your father. We simply following the care plan established by your brother, who has legal power of attorney. If you have concerns, you need to take them up with him. My brother is a snake and you know it." She jabbed a finger at the folder. "These documents are fraudulent. My father would never have signed over power of attorney to David. He does not even trust him. This whole thing is a setup. That's a serious accusation." Mr. Vance glanced around the lobby, aware of the small audience forming. Emma stood near the hallway entrance, half hidden behind a decorative plant. "Perhaps we should discuss this privately." "I do not want to discuss it privately. I want to see my father. Right now." "Your brother has requested that visits be limited to approved family members. I'm afraid you not on that list. This is kidnapping. I'm calling the police. You welcome to do that." Mr. Vance's voice did not change, but Emma saw something flicker in his eyes. Calculation. "But I should warn you that making false accusations could complicate your relationship with your father's care team. We only want what's best for him." The woman stared at him for a long moment, breathing hard. Then she turned and walked out, the folder still clutched in her hand. The automatic doors closed behind her with a soft hiss. Mr. Vance smoothed his tie and glanced at the receptionist. "If she comes back, call me immediately, and make a note in Mr. Brennan's file about the disruption." Emma slipped back into the hallway before he could notice her. Her mind was racing. Mr. Brennan. Room 14. She'd checked on him just that morning. He'd been quiet but alert, watching the news on the small television mounted to his wall. She'd asked if he needed anything, and he'd said no, just smiled politely and gone back to his show. She pulled out her phone and opened her notes, adding Mr. Brennan's name to the list. Then she navigated to the clinic's patient database and pulled up his file. Admitted 3 months ago after a minor stroke. Recovery had been good, physical therapy on schedule. And then 2 weeks ago a note from Mr. Vance about increased confusion and memory lapses. A psychiatric evaluation scheduled. Power of attorney transferred to his son, David Brennan. Emma closed the file and stood there in the empty hallway, thinking. The daughter had said the documents were fraudulent. What if she was right? What if the signatures were forged, the evaluations rigged, the whole system manipulated from the inside? She needed to talk to someone who understood how these schemes worked. Someone who'd seen them before. That afternoon, during her lunch break, she drove to the public library. She found a computer terminal in the back corner, away from the main reading area, and started searching. Elder financial abuse, competency fraud, guardianship scams. The articles she found were disturbing. Rings of lawyers, doctors, and care facility administrators working together to declare elderly people incompetent, seize control of their assets, and drain them dry. It happened more often than most people realized. And it was incredibly hard to stop once it started, because the victims were legally deemed unable to speak for themselves. She found one article about a case in Florida where a whistleblower had exposed a similar operation. The whistleblower had been a nurse. She gathered evidence for months, recording conversations, copying documents, building an airtight case. And when she finally gone to the authorities, the network had collapsed. Arrests were made. Victims were restored their rights. But the article also mentioned that the nurse had faced retaliation, death threats, her car vandalized. She had to move to a different state and change her name. Emma closed the browser and sat staring at the blank screen. She could do what that nurse had done. She could gather evidence, build a case, take it to someone who could act on it. But she'd be putting herself and Lily at risk. Again, the thing she spent 5 years trying to avoid. She thought about the woman in the lobby that morning, Mrs. Brennan, fighting to see her father. She thought about Mr. Holloway, confused and angry, insisting he was not crazy. She thought about her own parents, trapped in a system that moved too slowly to save them. She checked out a book on elder law just to have a reason for being there, and drove back to work. The rest of the week passed in a strange blur of tension and routine. Emma moved through her shifts like she was acting in a play, hitting all her marks, saying all her lines, while underneath she was constantly calculating. She started arriving early and staying late, using the extra time to access files, take pictures, memorize names. She avoided Mr. Vance as much as possible, but she could feel his presence in the building like a pressure in the air. On Thursday, she was leaving the clinic after a long shift when she noticed a man sitting in a car across the parking lot. Dark jacket, sunglasses, even though it was overcast. He was not doing anything, just sitting there, watching. Emma's pulse spiked. She got into her car, locked the doors, and pulled out of the lot. The car followed. Not aggressively, keeping a comfortable distance, but definitely following. She took a turn she normally would not take, away from her usual route home. The car stayed with her. She fought down panic and tried to think. She could not lead them to her apartment. To Lily. She pulled into a shopping center parking lot, busy with after-work traffic. The car followed her in but parked several spaces away. Emma sat gripping the steering wheel, her mind racing through options. She could confront him, demand to know who he was and what he wanted. But that seemed like a good way to escalate things. She could call the police and report someone following her. But what would she say? A car drove behind me on a public road? She got out and walked into the nearest store, a big box retailer with bright fluorescent lights and crowded aisles. She pretended to shop, moving between sections, checking behind her. The man in the dark jacket did not follow her inside. She bought a pack of gum she did not need and went back to her car. The other car was still there. Emma sat in the driver's seat and pulled out her phone. She called Lily. Hey! Lily's voice was distracted. Music in the background. What's up? Are you home? Yeah, why? I need you to do something for me. Check the locks on all the windows and the door. And do not open it for anyone. Okay. There was a pause. You re-scaring me. I'm fine. I just need you to do that. Can you do that? Okay. Yeah. I'm doing it now. Emma heard movement. The slide of a chain lock. Good. I'll be home in about an hour. If anyone knocks or rings the bell, do not answer. Just text me. What's going on? Nothing. I'm just being careful. I'll explain when I get home. She ended the call and sat for another moment, staring at the car in her rearview mirror. Then she started the engine and pulled out of the lot, heading in the opposite direction of her apartment. She drove aimlessly for 20 minutes, taking random turns, doubling back, trying to lose the tail. Eventually, she could not see the car anymore. She circled around and headed home, checking her mirrors constantly. By the time she got to her apartment, her nerves were shot. Lily was waiting inside, her face pale. "Who was following you?" Lily asked as soon as Emma closed the door. "I do not know. Maybe no one. Maybe I'm just paranoid." Emma dropped her bag and went to the window, scanning the street. No unfamiliar cars. That's probably nothing. It's not nothing. You've been weird for weeks. Something wrong and you would not tell me what. Lily's voice cracked. "Are we in trouble? Do we have to leave again?" Emma turned to face her sister. Lily was 15, but in that moment she looked younger. Scared. The way she looked when Emma had pulled her out of school 5 years ago and told her they were moving across the country, that they were changing their names, that they could not talk about what happened to Mom and Dad. Emma had promised then that she'd keep them safe, that they'd have a normal life, and she'd broken that promise. "I do not know," Emma said quietly. "Maybe." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "I'm tired of running." "I know. Me too." "Then stop. Whatever you're redoing, just stop." Emma wanted to. God, she wanted to. But when she closed her eyes, she saw Mr. Holloway's confused face, Mrs. Brennan's fury, her own mother's devastation. She saw a system that chewed up vulnerable people and spat them out, and she saw herself walking away, letting it happen. "I see not," she said. "Why not?" "Because if I do, someone else's family ends up like ours." Lily wiped her eyes. "And if you do not, we end up dead." It was the first time either of them had said it out loud. The truth they'd been dancing around for 5 years. Their parents had not died in an accident. They'd been killed. And the people who'd done it had never been caught. Emma crossed the room and pulled her sister into a hug. Lily resisted for a moment, then collapsed against her, shaking. "I'm sorry," Emma whispered. "I'm so sorry." They stood there in the middle of the small kitchen, holding each other, while outside the light faded and the street grew dark. That night, Emma lay awake again, staring at the ceiling. She reached a breaking point. She could not keep doing this halfway, watching and documenting but never acting. It was putting Lily in danger without accomplishing anything. She needed to make a choice. Either drop it completely, pack up their lives and disappear again, or commit fully. Gather enough evidence to blow the whole thing open and trust that the fallout would be worth the risk. She did not know which choice was right. She did not know if there was a right choice. At 2 in the morning, she got up and went to her laptop. She opened a blank document and started typing everything she knew. Names, dates, patterns. The patients who'd been targeted. The family members who'd gained control of their assets. Mr. Vance's role in coordinating evaluations. The threatening text. The car that had followed her. She typed for over an hour, organizing it all into something coherent. Something that might convince someone to investigate. When she was done, she saved the document to a thumb drive and hid it in the back of her closet. Then she lay back down and finally, mercifully, fell asleep. The next morning, she woke to her alarm with a sense of clarity she had not felt in weeks. She knew what she had to do. She got dressed, made coffee, and waited for Lily to wake up. When her sister shuffled into the kitchen, still half asleep, Emma handed her a cup of orange juice. "We need to talk," Emma said. Lily sat down, instantly alert. "Okay. I think I've stumbled onto something bad at work. People hurting patients for money. And I think they know I'm onto them." Lily was quiet for a moment. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to stop them. Or try to. But it might get dangerous. So I need you to stay with someone while I figure this out. Just for a little while." "Stay with who?" "We do not know anyone." "I'll find someone. A friend from work, maybe. Someone safe." "And what about you?" "I'll be fine." Lily looked at her with an expression far too old for 15. "You do not know that." "No," Emma admitted. "I do not. But I have to try." Lily reached across the table and took her hand. "Then I'm staying with you. I'm not running again. Not without you." Emma wanted to argue, to insist that Lily needed to be somewhere safe. But she saw the determination in her sister's face and knew it would be pointless. "Okay," she said finally, "but you do exactly what I say. No questions. Deal?" "Deal." Emma squeezed her hand, then let go. They finished their breakfast in silence, both of them understanding that something fundamental had shifted. They were not running anymore. They were standing their ground. And whatever came next, they'd face it together. Emma's first step was to find someone she could trust. That turned out to be harder than she'd anticipated. She ran through every person she knew in the city, which was not many, and came up short. Most were acquaintances at best. People she said hello to in the hallway or made small talk with at the grocery store. No one she could trust with something like this. Then she remembered something. Mr. Garrett in room 18. She'd been caring for him for over a year, and they developed the kind of quiet rapport that came from shared silences and small kindnesses. He was 84, a widower, his mind still sharp despite his failing body. And before his stroke had forced him into the clinic, he'd been a federal prosecutor. 40 years in the system, he'd told her once. He knew how it worked. More importantly, he knew how it could be corrupted. On Monday morning, Emma found him in his room watching the morning news. He muted it when she came in and smiled. "Good morning, Emma. You're looking serious today." She closed the door behind her and moved to the window, checking that the blinds were shut. "Mr. Garrett, I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me if I'm crazy." His expression shifted, curiosity replacing the pleasant blankness. "I'm listening." She told him everything. About the patterns she'd noticed, the patients being pushed through competency hearings, Mr. Vance's suspicious behavior. About her parents and what had happened to them. About the man who followed her and the text message warning her off. She kept her voice low and spoke quickly, aware that anyone could walk in at any moment. When she finished, Mr. Garrett was quiet for a long time. He turned off the television entirely and was staring at his hands, folded in his lap. "You not crazy," he said finally. "What you describing is called a guardianship scheme. It's more common than most people realize, and it's devastatingly effective because it exploits the very system designed to protect vulnerable adults." He looked up at her. "But proving it is extremely difficult. These operations are usually sophisticated. They have lawyers, doctors, sometimes judges on their payroll, and they very good at making everything look legitimate. So what do I do? You need irrefutable evidence. Documents, recordings, financial records. Something that shows clear intent to defraud. And you need to take it to someone outside the local system. A federal agency, ideally. Adult protective services at the state level might be compromised if this network is as established as you think." Emma nodded, her mind already working. "Can you help me?" Mr. Garrett smiled, but it was sad. "I'm an old man in a nursing home, Emma. My credibility is limited, but I can give you guidance. Tell you what you need and how to present it." He paused. "I can also give you a name. A journalist I worked with years ago on a corruption case. She is good, ethical, and she does not back down from a fight. If you can get her enough evidence to run a story, that might be enough to force an investigation." "What's her name?" "Rebecca Marsh. She works for the Tribune now, investigative division." He shifted in his bed, reaching for a pen and paper on his nightstand. "I'll write down her contact information. But Emma, you need to understand something. Once you do this, there's no going back. These people will come after you. They'll try to discredit you, intimidate you, maybe worse. Are you prepared for that?" Emma thought about Lily, about the apartment that had finally started to feel like home, about the quiet life she'd tried to build. Then she thought about Mr. Holloway's angry confusion and Mrs. Brennan's helpless fury. "Yes," she said, "I'm prepared." He wrote down the information and handed it to her. "Be careful. And Emma, document everything. Every conversation, every interaction. Keep copies in multiple places. Do not trust anyone at this facility except me, and even then, be smart about it. Thank you. She folded the paper and tucked it into her pocket. Do not thank me yet. We do not know how this ends. Over the next week, Emma became methodical. She started wearing a small recording device, a digital recorder she de-ordered online that clipped inside her scrub's pocket. She recorded every interaction with Mr. Vance, every overheard conversation, every suspicious meeting in the hallways. She copied files from the clinic's database onto a thumb drive, working in the early morning hours before anyone else arrived. She photographed documents, logged license plates, tracked visitors. She also started talking to the patients more deliberately, asking careful questions. Mr. Brennan told her he did not understand why his son had suddenly taken over his finances. He'd been planning to give his daughter equal control, he said, but David had convinced him to wait. And then he'd woken up one day to find it all already decided. Mrs. Patterson in room 12 mentioned that her nephew had been pressuring her to update her will. She did not want to, she said, but he kept bringing lawyers to visit and they talked in circles until she could not keep track of what she was signing. Mr. Holloway told her he was scared. They were saying things about him that were not true, writing notes in his file that made him sound confused and aggressive. He was not crazy, he insisted. He just wanted to go home. Emma documented all of it. She felt like she was building a case in slow motion, piece by careful piece, while the sword hung over her head waiting to drop. The sword dropped on a Wednesday. She was at the nurse's station updating charts when Linda called her into the break room. Her supervisor's face was drawn, worried. Emma, I need to talk to you about something. Linda closed the door and leaned against it. Mr. Vance came to me this morning with a concern. He says there's been unusual access to patient files outside of normal working hours. The system logs show your credentials. Emma's heart stopped. She'd been so careful, or thought she had been. I sometimes come in early to catch up on paperwork. At 3 in the morning. I could not sleep. I thought I might as well be productive. Linda studied her for a long moment. Emma, what's going on? And please do not tell me nothing, because I've known you for 2 years and I can see something's wrong. Emma weighed her options. Linda had always been fair, kind, even. But she was also part of the system. If Emma told her the truth, would she help or would she report it straight back to Mr. Vance? I think something bad is happening here, Emma said quietly. To the patients. I think they being exploited. That's a serious accusation. I know. Do you have proof? I'm working on it. Linda closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them again, she looked older. I was afraid of this. I've had my own suspicions, but I did not want to believe it. I've worked here for 15 years. I thought I knew this place. Emma felt a flicker of hope. You noticed things too? Patterns. Changes that did not make sense. But I told myself I was being paranoid. Linda pushed off from the door and crossed to the small table in the corner, sinking into a chair. If you rewrite, if this is really happening, we need to be very careful. Mr. Vance has already flagged you as a problem. He asked me if I thought you were reliable, if you had any personal issues that might affect your judgment. What did you tell him? That you one of the best nurses I've ever worked with. But Emma, he's building a case against you. I can feel it. If you going to do something, you need to do it soon. Emma sat down across from her. I have evidence. Documents, recordings. I was going to take it to a journalist. Someone who could investigate without tipping off the people involved. How much do you have? Enough to show a pattern. Maybe not enough to prove intent. Not yet. Linda was quiet for a moment, thinking. There's a file room in the basement. Old records, stuff that has not been digitized yet. Personnel files, financial documents, incident reports going back years. If this scheme has been running for a while, there might be something down there that could help you. But access is restricted. You need an administrator's keycard. Mr. Vance has one. So do I. Linda pulled a card from her pocket and set it on the table between them. I'm going to lunch in 20 minutes. I'll be gone for an hour. If someone happened to borrow my keycard while I was not looking, I probably would not notice until I got back. Emma stared at the card, then at Linda. You could lose your job for this. I could lose my soul if I do not. Linda stood and walked to the door, pausing with her hand on the handle. 1 hour, Emma. That's all I can give you. After Linda left, Emma waited 15 minutes to make sure no one was watching, then grabbed the keycard and headed for the basement. The stairs were at the far end of the building, past the kitchen and laundry. She took them quickly, her footsteps echoing in the concrete stairwell. The basement was dim and cool, lined with storage rooms and mechanical equipment. She found the file room at the end of a long hallway, the door marked with faded lettering. Linda's keycard worked. The door clicked open. Inside, metal shelves stretched from floor to ceiling, packed with boxes and folders. Emma pulled out her phone and turned on the flashlight, scanning the labels. The files were organized by year and category. She started with personnel records, looking for information about previous administrators, former employees who might have been involved. She found a box marked with the years spanning 3 to 5 years ago and pulled it down, setting it on a dusty table. Inside were employment files, disciplinary records, termination notices. She photographed everything that seemed relevant, working as fast as she could. Then she moved to the financial records, budget reports, audit results, vendor contracts. In a box labeled miscellaneous, she found something that made her stop. A folder labeled Internal Investigation, dated 4 years ago. She opened it. Inside were notes about suspicious activity in patient accounts. Several families had complained about unauthorized charges. An internal audit had been launched. But according to the final report, the investigation had been closed due to lack of evidence. The administrator at the time had resigned shortly after. His name was listed at the bottom of the report. Gregory Vance. Emma's hands started shaking. Vance had been here before. He'd run the same scheme, been caught, and somehow walked away clean. And now he was back under a different first name, doing it all over again. She photographed every page of the folder, her mind racing. This was it. This was the proof she needed that this was not isolated incidents but a sustained operation. She checked her phone. 45 minutes had passed. She needed to get out. She was putting the boxes back when she heard footsteps in the hallway outside. Her stomach dropped. She killed her phone's flashlight and stood frozen in the darkness, listening. The footsteps stopped outside the door. There was a pause, then the sound of a keycard swiping. The door opened. Light flooded in from the hallway. Mr. Vance stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. Emma, what are you doing down here? Her mind went blank for a second, then kicked into overdrive. Linda asked me to grab some old employee records for a reference check. Did she? It was not a question. He stepped into the room, letting the door close behind him. That's interesting because I just spoke to Linda and she did not mention anything about that. Emma's pulse hammered in her throat. Maybe she forgot. Maybe. He moved closer, his eyes scanning the shelves, the boxes on the table, her. Or maybe you re down here looking for something you should not be looking for. I do not know what you mean. I think you do. His voice was soft, almost gentle. I think you've been very busy these past few weeks. Digging around, asking questions, accessing files you have no business accessing. That's a problem, Emma. I'm just doing my job. No. You're redoing something else. And it needs to stop. He was close now, close enough that she could smell his cologne. I like you, Emma. You're a good nurse. You care about the patients. But you making a mistake. A big one. And I'd hate to see you get hurt because of it. Is that a threat? It's a warning. Walk away. Go back to your routine. Forget whatever you think you figured out. Do that and we can all move on. You, me, your sister. The mention of Lily sent ice through her veins. Leave her out of this. That's up to you. He pulled out his phone and showed her a photo. Lily, walking out of their apartment building, backpack slung over one shoulder. It had been taken that morning. She's a pretty girl. It would be a shame if something happened to her. Emma's vision went red. She did not think, just moved. Her hand shot out and grabbed the nearest thing she could reach, a heavy binder on the shelf, and swung it at his head. He jerked back and it caught him on the shoulder instead. He stumbled, cursing, and she bolted for the door. She made it into the hallway and ran. Behind her, she heard him shouting. She hit the stairs and took them two at a time, her breath coming in gasps. She burst through the door into the main floor and nearly collided with a food service cart. The worker yelled something, but Emma did not stop. She ran for the exit, past startled staff and confused visitors, and crashed through the front doors into the parking lot. She got to her car, fumbled with her keys, and finally got the door open. She threw herself inside and locked it, then started the engine with shaking hands. Through the clinic's glass doors, she could see Mr. Vance emerging, his face flushed. He pulled out his phone. Emma reversed out of the spot and floored it, tires squealing on the pavement. She drove without thinking, just putting distance between herself and the clinic. Her mind was screaming. He'd threatened Lily. He'd shown her a photo. They knew where she lived, where her sister went to school. She pulled into a gas station parking lot and grabbed her phone, calling Lily. It rang 4 times before her sister picked up. Em? What's wrong? Where are you? School. In the library. Why? I need you to leave. Right now. Do not go home. Do not talk to anyone. Just get out of there and go somewhere public. A coffee shop, anywhere with people. You re-scaring me. I know. I'm sorry. But please just do it. I'll explain everything, I promise. Just get somewhere safe and text me the address. There was a pause. Then, quietly, okay. Emma ended the call and sat gripping the steering wheel, trying to think. She could not go home. She could not go back to the clinic. She needed to get the evidence to Rebecca Marsh, the journalist, and she needed to do it now before Vance could stop her. She pulled out the paper Mr. Garrett had given her and dialed the number. A woman answered on the 3rd ring. Rebecca Marsh. Ms. Marsh, my name is Emma Reyes. You do not know me, but I was told you might be able to help. I have evidence of a financial exploitation ring targeting elderly patients. And the people running it just threaten my family. There was a pause. Where are you right now? A gas station on Route 20, about 10 minutes from downtown. Stay there. I'm coming to you. Rebecca Marsh arrived in 30 minutes driving a silver sedan that had seen better days. She was younger than Emma had expected, maybe late 30s, with sharp eyes and dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She got out and approached Emma's car, tapping on the window. Emma unlocked the door and Rebecca slid into the passenger seat. You look terrified, Rebecca said without preamble. Tell me everything. Fast. Emma did. She started with the patterns she'd noticed at the clinic, moved through her suspicions about Mr. Vance, and ended with what had just happened in the basement. As she spoke, she pulled out her phone and the thumb drive, showing Rebecca the photos, the recordings, the documents she'd collected. Rebecca listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes on her phone. When Emma finished, the journalist sat back and let out a long breath. This is big, she said. Bigger than you probably realize. If what you re-saying is true, and this Vance has done this before under a different name, then we re-talking about a multi-state operation. Possibly dozens of victims over the years. Can you stop them? I can expose them. That's what I do. But exposure takes time. I need to verify everything, cross-reference sources, build an airtight story. And even then, we re-looking at days, maybe a week before publication. I do not have a week. They threaten my sister. Rebecca's expression hardened. Then we need to get you both somewhere safe while I work. Do you have family? Friends out of state? No. There's no one. Okay. Then we'll figure something out. Rebecca pulled out her own phone and started typing. I know a lawyer who handles witness protection situations, off-the-book stuff for people who need to disappear for a little while. Let me make some calls. While Rebecca talked to someone in rapid low tones, Emma checked her phone. Lily had texted an address, a coffee shop near her school. Emma typed back telling her to stay there, not to move, that she was coming. Rebecca ended her call. Okay. My contact can get you into a motel outside the city tonight. Tomorrow we'll figure out something more permanent. But right now you need to get your sister and go. I'll take copies of everything you have and start working. Emma handed over the thumb drive and watched as Rebecca plugged it into her laptop, rapidly copying files. What if they come after you? Let them try. I've dealt with worse than small-time con artists playing dress-up as administrators. Rebecca ejected the drive and handed it back. Keep the originals. Make more copies if you can. Store them in different places. Cloud storage, email them to yourself, whatever. Redundancy is your friend. What about the patients? The people still in there? Once my story runs, there'll be an investigation. Adult Protective Services, FBI, probably State Attorney General's office. They'll freeze assets, review every case. The victims will get help. Rebecca met her eyes. But that only happens if you stay alive to see it. So right now, your job is to get somewhere safe and let me do mine. Emma nodded. Rebecca wrote down an address on a scrap of paper and handed it over. This is the motel. Check in under the name Sarah Chin. My contact already made the reservation. Pay cash if you can. Sarah Chun was a friend of mine, a nurse. Then she would not mind lending you her name for a few days. Rebecca opened the door to leave, then paused. Emma, what you doing takes guts. Most people would have looked the other way. Most people did not lose their parents to something like this. Rebecca's expression softened. I'm sorry. For what it's worth, we going to make them pay. She got out and walked back to her car. Emma watched her drive away, then started her own engine and headed for the coffee shop where Lily was waiting. She found her sister sitting at a corner table, her backpack clutched in her lap, eyes scanning the room nervously. When Lily saw Emma, relief flooded her face. Emma sat down and took her sister's hands. We have to leave. Right now. Pack a bag, enough for a few days. We not going home. Why? What happened? I'll explain on the way. But Lily, I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Lily searched her face, then nodded. Yeah, I trust you. They went to a big box store and bought basics with cash. Clothes, toiletries, cheap prepaid phones. Emma threw away their old phones in a dumpster behind the store, watching years of photos and contacts disappear. Felt like cutting off a limb. But Rebecca had been clear. If Vance's people were tracking them, the phones were the easiest way to do it. The motel was 40 minutes outside the city, a squat building off the highway with peeling paint and a flickering neon sign. Emma checked in using the name Rebecca had given her, paid cash for 3 nights, and took the key to a room on the 2nd floor. Inside, the room was exactly what she expected. 2 beds with faded comforters, a bathroom that smelled like bleach, a television bolted to the wall. But the door had a deadbolt and a chain, and the window overlooked the parking lot where she could see their car. It would do. Lily dropped her bag on the nearest bed and turned to Emma. Okay. Now tell me what's happening. Emma did. She told her about the scheme at the clinic, about Mr. Vance and what she discovered in the basement, about the threat and the journalist who was going to expose everything. Lily listened in silence, her face growing paler with each detail. So we hiding, Lily said when Emma finished. Again. Just for a few days. Until the story runs and the authorities get involved. Then it'll be safe. And if it's not? If these people come after us anyway? Emma did not have an answer for that. She sat down on the other bed and put her head in her hands. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I dragged you into this. You did not drag me into anything. You trying to do the right thing. Lily's voice was quiet but steady. I'm scared, but I'm also proud of you. Emma looked up, surprised. Lily came and sat beside her, leaning her head on Emma's shoulder the way she used to when she was little. Mom and Dad would be proud too, Lily said. Emma felt tears prick her eyes. She wrapped an arm around her sister and held on tight. I hope so. They spent the rest of the evening in the motel room, eating takeout from a fast food place down the road and watching mindless television. Emma tried to relax but could not. Every sound in the hallway made her tense. Every car pulling into the parking lot drew her to the window. She kept one of the new prepaid phones close, waiting for Rebecca to call with an update. The call came at 10:30. Emma stepped outside to take it, closing the door quietly behind her. "I've been going through your files," Rebecca said. "This is even worse than I thought. Vance is not just running a guardianship scam. He's part of a network. I found connections to 3 other care facilities in the state, all with similar patterns. We're talking millions in stolen assets over the past 5 years. Can you prove it? I'm building the case, but I need more time. A few more days to track down some of the victims' families, get their statements. And I want to loop in the FBI. This crosses state lines, which makes it federal." "How long?" "End of the week. Maybe sooner if I can move fast enough." "For days." Emma could keep them hidden for 4 days. "Okay. Let me know when it's ready to run." "I will. And Emma, watch your back. These people are dangerous." "I know." She ended the call and stood in the cold night air, watching her breath fog. In the distance, she could hear highway traffic, the hum of engines and the occasional blare of a horn. Normal sounds. The world going on like nothing was wrong. She went back inside. Lily had fallen asleep on top of the covers, still in her clothes. Emma pulled a blanket over her and sat on the other bed, staring at the ceiling. She thought about Mr. Garrett alone in his room at the clinic. About Mr. Holloway and Mr. Brennan and all the others still trapped in that system. About Linda, who risked her career to help. She hoped they'd be okay. She hoped the fallout from Rebecca's story would not destroy them along with the people who deserved it. She must have dozed off eventually, because she woke to daylight streaming through the gap in the curtains. Lily was awake, sitting cross-legged on her bed and scrolling through her new phone. Emma checked her own phone. No messages. They fell into a strange routine over the next 2 days. Emma kept the door locked and the curtains drawn. They ate meals from the vending machine and the fast food place. They watched television and played card games with a deck Emma had bought at the store. They did not talk about what was happening or what would come next. It was like they were in a bubble suspended outside of time. On the 3rd day, Rebecca called again. "We're almost there. I've got statements from 5 families, financial records that show the pattern, and I managed to get someone at the FBI interested. They reopening a preliminary investigation." "When does the story run?" "Tomorrow morning. Front page, digital and print. It's going to be big, Emma. National coverage big. By noon tomorrow, everyone's going to know what Vance and his network have been doing." Emma felt something unclench in her chest. "Thank you. Thank me when it's over. For now, stay where you are. Once the story breaks, there's going to be chaos. Law enforcement will move fast, but these guys might move faster. Do not go anywhere until I tell you it's clear." "Understood." That night, Emma barely slept. She lay in the dark listening to Lily breathe and watching the shadows move across the ceiling. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, the truth would come out. She just had to make it through one more night. Morning came slowly. Emma was awake before dawn, sitting by the window and watching the parking lot. At 6, she turned on the television and found a local news station. At 7, her phone rang. "Rebecca, it's live. Check the Tribune's website." Emma opened the browser on her phone and navigated to the site. The headline dominated the screen. "Elderly exploitation ring exposed. How care facilities became crime scenes." Below it was Rebecca's byline and a photo of the Riverside Care Facility. Emma started reading. The article was thorough, devastating. It laid out the entire scheme, named names, included quotes from victims' families and financial documents showing the scope of the theft. And right in the center was a photo of Gregory Vance, aka Grant Vance, with a detailed history of his previous schemes. By 8, the story had been picked up by national outlets. By 9, Emma watched live coverage of FBI agents entering the Riverside Care Facility. By 10, Rebecca called to say that Vance had been arrested along with 3 others, including a lawyer and a psychiatrist who been signing off on the competency evaluations. "It's over," Rebecca said. "You re-safe." Emma looked at Lily, who was watching the television with wide eyes. "Are you sure? The network's dismantled. Everyone involved is either in custody or running. Adult Protective Services is reviewing every patient case at Riverside and the other facilities." "You did it, Emma. You stopped them." Emma felt tears on her face before she realized she was crying. Lily came and sat beside her, taking her hand. On the screen, a reporter was interviewing Mrs. Brennan, who was demanding answers and justice for her father. "What happens now?" Emma asked. "You'll probably need to give a statement to the FBI at some point. You're a key witness. But for now, you can go home." Home. The word felt foreign. Emma looked around the dingy motel room that had been their hiding place for 3 days. "Thank you, Rebecca, for everything. Just doing my job. Though for what it's worth, you did most of the work. I just gave it a megaphone." After they hung up, Emma sat with Lily in silence, watching the news coverage. The story was everywhere. Interviews with victims, legal experts weighing in, politicians calling for reforms. The thing that had destroyed her family was finally being dragged into the light. "Can we really go home?" Lily asked quietly. "Yeah," Emma said. "I think we can." They packed their few belongings and checked out of the motel. The drive back to the city felt surreal, like returning from another world. Emma kept expecting something to go wrong, for a car to follow them or a phone to ring with bad news. But nothing happened. The world just kept turning, indifferent and ordinary. Their apartment looked exactly as they left it. Emma unlocked the door and they stepped inside. Smelled stale, but it was theirs. Lily dropped her bag and went to her room. Emma stood in the middle of the living room, suddenly unsure what to do with herself. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost did not answer, then realized it could be the FBI. "Hello, Emma? It's Linda." Emma felt a rush of relief. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Suspended pending investigation, but fine. I just wanted to call and say thank you. What you did, it took courage. Real courage. I could not have done it without you. The keycard, the file room. You made it possible. We made it possible. Together." Linda paused. "I also wanted to let you know that Mr. Garrett asked about you. He wanted to make sure you were safe. Tell him I'm okay, and tell him thank you." "I will. Take care of yourself, Emma." After she hung up, Emma sat on the couch and let herself breathe. Really breathe, for the first time in weeks. The fear that had been her constant companion was gone, or at least diminished to something manageable. The sword was not hanging over her anymore. Lily emerged from her room. "I'm starving. Real food, not vending machine garbage." Emma laughed, surprised by the sound. "Yeah, me too." They ordered pizza and ate it sitting on the floor like they used to when they first moved in, before everything got complicated. They talked about small things. School, television shows, nothing important. Felt normal. Felt like maybe they could have normal again. That night, Emma lay in her own bed and stared at the familiar ceiling. She thought about her parents, wondered if they could see what she'd done, if it mattered to them, if it changed anything. It did not bring them back. It did not undo the years of fear and running. But it was something. A line drawn. A stand taken. She thought about the patients at Riverside who would get their rights restored, their assets returned. About the families who would finally get answers. About all the future victims who would not exist because the network had been stopped. It was not a happy ending. There were still investigations ahead, testimony to give, consequences to face. Her job at the clinic was probably gone. She'd have to start over somewhere else, rebuild again. But for the first time in 5 years, Emma felt something she'd almost forgotten. Not happiness, not yet, but something close to peace. She closed her eyes and let herself sleep. Tomorrow would come with its own challenges. But tonight, she was safe. Lily was safe. And the people who destroyed their family were finally going to answer for what they done. It was enough. The FBI called 2 days later. Agent Cartwright, a woman with a brisk voice and no-nonsense manner, asked Emma to come in for a formal interview. Emma agreed and brought Lily with her, unwilling to leave her sister alone even though the immediate danger had passed. They sat in a bland conference room with beige walls and drank burnt coffee while Emma walked through everything she discovered, everything she documented, every decision she made. Agent Cartwright took notes and asked pointed questions. How had Emma accessed certain files? Had she been aware she was violating clinic policy? Did she understand that some of her evidence might not be admissible in court because of how it was obtained? Emma answered honestly. Yes, she broken rules. Yes, she known it was risky. But people were being hurt and no one else was stopping it. Agent Cartwright closed her notebook and looked at Emma for a long moment. You did good work. Messy, legally complicated work, but good. We've already got enough from the financial records and witness statements to build a solid case. Your evidence helped us move fast, which probably prevented additional victims. What happens to the people who were hurt? The patients? Adult Protective Services is working with the families to restore rights and recover assets where possible. It would not be perfect. Some of the money is already gone, moved offshore or laundered through shell companies. But we get what we can. She paused, and we looking at expanding the investigation. We think this network operated in at least 4 other states. Your testimony might help us build those cases too. Emma nodded. She known this would not end cleanly. Whatever you need. After the interview, Emma and Lily walked out into the cold afternoon. The city felt different now, or maybe Emma felt different in it. Less like she was hiding, more like she had a right to exist here. You okay? Lily asked as they got into the car. Yeah, I think I am. They drove home in comfortable silence. Emma's phone buzzed with a text. Rebecca Marsh, asking if she wanted to grab coffee and talk about a follow-up article. Emma typed back a yes. She owed Rebecca more than she could repay, and if talking about her experience could help expose how these schemes worked, prevent them from happening elsewhere, then she'd do it. Over the next week, Emma's life took on a strange new shape. She could not return to Riverside, that much was clear. The facility was under investigation, half the staff suspended or fired, operations barely functioning. But word had spread about what she'd done, and other facilities started reaching out. Small places, ethical places that wanted nurses who cared about protecting their patients. She took a job at a hospice care center across town. The pay was slightly better and the atmosphere was nothing like Riverside. The director, a sharp-eyed woman named Dr. Patel, interviewed Emma personally and asked blunt questions about what had happened. I'm not looking for a hero, Dr. Patel said. I'm looking for someone with a spine. Someone who speak up if they see something wrong. Think you can do that? Yes, Emma said. Good. You start Monday. Emma also started seeing a therapist. It was Lily's idea, actually. Her sister had brought it up one evening while they were making dinner. Casual, like she was suggesting a movie. Maybe you should talk to someone. About everything. About Mom and Dad and what happened at the clinic and all of it. Emma's first instinct was to deflect, to say she was fine. But she stopped herself. She was not fine. She had not been fine for 5 years. And maybe it was time to stop pretending. The therapist's name was Dr. Lynn. She was patient and calm and did not push Emma to talk about things before she was ready. They started with the recent stuff, the clinic and the investigation. Slowly, carefully, they worked backward toward the older wounds. It was hard. Some sessions, Emma left feeling raw and exposed. But other times, she felt lighter. Like she set down a weight she'd been carrying so long she forgotten it was there. Lily started seeing someone too. A counselor who specialized in adolescents dealing with trauma. Emma drove her to appointments and waited in the parking lot, answering emails on her phone or just sitting and watching the clouds move across the sky. One afternoon, about 3 weeks after everything had broken open, Emma got a call from an unfamiliar number. She almost did not answer, still wary of unknown callers. But something made her pick up. Emma Reyes? A male voice, older, uncertain. Yes. This is Richard Holloway. I do not know if you remember me. I was a patient at Riverside. Emma sat up straighter. Mr. Holloway. Of course I remember you. Are you okay? I am now, thanks to you. His voice wavered. They gave me back control of my accounts. My daughter and I are sorting through the mess, but at least I have the chance to sort it. I just wanted to call and say thank you. You did not have to do what you did, but you did it anyway. You saved me. Emma felt her throat tighten. I'm glad you okay. I'm more than okay. I'm free. And I wanted you to know that it mattered. What you did mattered. After they hung up, Emma sat staring at her phone. Other calls came in over the following days. Mrs. Brennan, thanking her for helping her father, a son of one of the other victims, wanting to share his story for Rebecca's follow-up article. Even Mr. Garrett called, his voice warm and proud. You did something remarkable, he said. Not many people have the courage to stand up the way you did. I was terrified the whole time. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's acting in spite of it. You should be proud. Emma was not sure about proud, but she was starting to feel something else. Not peace exactly, not yet, but maybe the beginning of it. A sense that she defaced the thing that had haunted her for 5 years and survived. More than survived. She fought back. The trial preparations took months. Emma gave depositions, sat through meetings with prosecutors, reviewed evidence. Vance and his associates were facing multiple federal charges. Conspiracy, wire fraud, elder abuse, identity theft. The list went on. Emma learned that Vance had been running variations of this scheme for over a decade, moving from state to state whenever things got too hot. He'd stolen millions from vulnerable people and left wreckage in his wake. But this time he would not walk away. Rebecca's follow-up articles detailed the full scope of the network. She interviewed victims' families, talked to legal experts about how these schemes exploited gaps in the guardianship system, called for policy reforms. The series won awards and sparked legislative action in multiple states. None of this happens without you, Rebecca told Emma over coffee one afternoon. You know that, right? I was just trying to stop one guy at one clinic. And in the process, you exposed a national problem. You gave voice to people who'd been silenced. That's not nothing. Emma stirred her coffee thinking, it does not feel like enough. There are still people out there doing this. Other networks, other victims. True. But now there's a spotlight on the issue. Regulators are paying attention. Families are being vigilant. Change is slow, but it happens. And you started it. 6 months after the arrests, the trial began. Emma testified on the second day. She walked into the courtroom in a simple dress, her hair pulled back, and tried not to look at Vance sitting at the defense table. But when it was her turn to speak, she met his eyes. He looked smaller than she remembered. Ordinary. Just a man who made the choice to hurt people for profit. She told the truth. All of it. What she seen, what she documented. Why she kept going even when it got dangerous. The defense attorney tried to rattle her, questioned her methods, suggested she acted inappropriately. Emma stayed calm and answered every question. When she was done, she walked out of the courtroom and found Lily waiting in the hallway. Her sister hugged her tight. You were amazing, Lily said. That's not over yet. But we going to win. I can feel it. Lily was right. The verdict came 3 weeks later. Guilty on all counts. Vance and his associates were sentenced to lengthy prison terms. Assets were seized to repay victims. The network was dismantled completely. Emma watched the news coverage from her new apartment. She and Lily had moved a month earlier to a better neighborhood with more light and space. Felt like a fresh start. Her phone rang. Dr. Patel from the hospice center. Just wanted to make sure you were doing okay. Dr. Patel said. I know today's verdict must bring up a lot. It does. But good things mostly. Closure, I guess. That's healthy. Also, I wanted to let you know we re-expanding our staff training program. I'd like you to be part of it. Teaching other nurses what to watch for, how to advocate for patients. Interested? Emma thought about it. About turning her experience into something useful, something that could prevent others from suffering. Yeah. I'm interested. Good. We'll talk details Monday. That evening, Emma and Lily ordered Chinese food and ate it sprawled on the couch, half watching a movie neither of them cared about. It was easy and comfortable and normal in a way their life had not been for a long time. Lily said during a commercial break. Yeah. Do you think Mom and Dad would be okay with how things turned out? I mean, we not rich or anything. We still kinda struggling. But we okay. Do you think that's enough? Emma looked at her sister, 15 years old going on 30. Wise beyond her years because she had to be. I think they be proud of us. And I think they want us to be happy. Are you happy? Emma considered the question. She thought about the work she did now, helping people in their final days find dignity and peace. She thought about the testimony she given and the lives that had been restored because of it. She thought about the therapy sessions that were slowly helping her untangle years of fear and grief. I'm getting there, she said. I think I'm getting there. Lily smiled. Good. Me too. They finished their food and watched the rest of the movie. Outside, the city hummed with life. Cars passed. People walked their dogs. The world turned. Emma had learned something over the past year. Justice was not always clean or complete. Victory did not erase the past or fix everything that was broken. But sometimes standing up and fighting back was enough. Sometimes stopping one bad thing from continuing was enough. Sometimes survival itself was a triumph. She thought about the patients she helped, the families who gotten their loved ones back, the future victims who would never exist because the network had been stopped. She thought about the girl she been 5 years ago, paralyzed by loss and fear, and the woman she was now, scarred but standing. It was not a fairy tale ending. There was no happily ever after, no perfect resolution. But it was real. It was hers. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. Emma leaned back against the couch cushions and let herself breathe. Tomorrow she go to work. Tomorrow she continue therapy. Tomorrow she keep moving forward. One day at a time, building something that looked like a life. But tonight she was here. Safe. Whole. Free. And that was everything.